Good evening, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host today, guys, Garrison McDaniel, and we have a great show for you guys today. We will be talking about the Game 6 between the Oilers and the Canucks that happened on Saturday. Next, we will be previewing the series between the Rangers and the Panthers. I'll give you guys my take on that, my predictions, and who Vegas has as the odds-on favorite right now for that Eastern Conference final matchup. After that, we'll dive into the offseason for the Hurricanes as they were eliminated by the New York Rangers last week. I was unable to get into my thoughts on their offseason because of the Craig Berube news that hit on Friday night. So I had to scrap some segment. That was the one, but we'll make up for it. We'll talk about it in this episode today, guys. After that, I will be discussing Alexander Barkov and how him winning the Selke is really shows how far the Panthers have come in recent years. And then after that, stick around in the show, guys, where we will be talking about the current game that is going on right now, the Oilers versus the Canucks in Game 7. I'll be keeping you guys up to date on the score and the action in that one. But before we start, guys, I would like to ask that you like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions from you guys. So to ensure that your question gets read live on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps the show. Again, the link is, as you see on the screen right now, gsmcpodcast.net. Alright, and without further ado, we're going to get right into our first segment tonight. It is the Oilers extending the series to 7. Oilers winning this one 5-1, and I'll give you guys a little bit of a breakdown, and then I'll talk about how that is affecting the Western Conference Stanley Cup playoffs right now. Alright. Dylan Holloway opened the scoring in this one with a great individual effort. This is Dry's first point of this game. This is a big pattern in this game was Draisaitl and McDavid with the primary assist. It's Dylan Holloway. This is a great individual effort that out of him. This is something we haven't seen really in the playoffs, is the second line really starting to click. Dylan Holloway, Draisaitl, and Evander Kane. It's usually been Draisaitl getting points on the power play when he's out on the ice with Connor McDavid, when he's out there on the ice with Nugent Hopkins, Bouchard, these amazing Oilers first line, but it hasn't been him carrying really 5-on-5 his weight, and in this one we really saw it. So this is Draisaitl's first point, and this was a great indication of what the Edmonton Oilers want to see going forward. Niels Höglander tied it after that. This was a feed from Elias Pettersson. This was about a minute after Dylan Holloway's goal, and it looked like we were going to have a great game after this one. This all happened in the first period, of course. Niels Höglander just alone in the slot. We've been talking about this all postseason long, is a lot of players have been alone in the slot for one reason or the other, but defensemen need to be better. And this really, if I'm not mistaken, this was on Darnell Nurse, who was unable to recover on this one, or it was Evan Bouchard. I think it was one of those guys that really missed Niels Höglander on this one. After this, Stuart Skinner really started to play way better. We called on him after, he had a poor series. Calvin Pickard coming in to replace him. After Calvin Pickard dropped, I believe Calvin Pickard dropped the game 5, and that's what led to Stuart Skinner. It was Calvin Pickard dropped game 5, Stuart Skinner coming back in, only giving up 1 goal in this game on 15 shots. It's the Oilers' offense really keeping the puck through the neutral zone. It's the Oilers' defensemen playing very well in the defensive zone. And then, of course, it is Stuart Skinner, not letting the puck pass him. 14 out of 15 is still a very good save percentage. They really needed this, and then the question now is Pickard or Skinner in Game 7. I've been setting this up, and Game 7 just started, so I actually have no clue who they went with. I'm going to look at that really quick because I think that is very telling. Who they went with Stuart Skinner. Yes, they went with Stuart Skinner in Game 7. went back to their starting goaltender for the long time throughout these playoffs. So that's very telling for the Edmonton Oilers. They trust their guys through Skinner. It really seems like they put Calvin Pickard in as a wake-up call for Stuart Skinner, and maybe it worked. Of course, we're seeing this in this Game 6, that it did work, only allowing 1 goal. So you're getting great minutes from him in this game. The Oilers, when they're getting good goaltending, is very, very unstoppable. That's, it's what's been very impressive for them, is how well they've been able to score goals and how they've been able to win despite their poor goaltending. So in this one, having that great goaltending, of course, is really going to take them far if they can continue to have that. Zach Hyman scores a very Zach Hyman goal to make this 2-1. He's in the slot. McDavid. This is, if you want to look at all 50 goals that Zach Hyman scored in the regular season, I'm about to detail them to you. Zach Hyman in the slot. McDavid run around, find an open lane, gets it to Zach Hyman in the slot, and then Artur Shilov's, he probably should have saved this one. He didn't look great in this game, and actually that makes me wonder who they went for this Game 7. I assume they stick with Shilov's in this Game 7, but now I want to make sure, because I think that that's also very telling for this one. Let me go to the Canucks here, and they do go to Artur Shilov's in this Game 7. We'll talk more about this Game 7 a little bit later, but I know Brock Besser isn't in this one. That's really disappointing for the Vancouver Canucks. He's dealing with his blood clotting issues. It's been ongoing for him. Nothing he can control, nothing anybody can control. It's very unfortunate to see one of our superstars in this league dealing with something like that is really not able to be fixed. So hopefully he'll be back if they do win this game. If they lose this Game 7, that's a hard one. We'll talk more about that in our 5th segment tonight, but I do really feel for Brock Besser, who's leading the team in goals, who's leading the team in points overall in this postseason. Not having him is going to be hard, and we're kind of seeing this in this Game 7 so far. Oilers up 10-2 in the shots on goal column. The score is still 0-0. Of course, I'm going to be keeping you guys up to date, as I said, on that game, what I'm seeing from it as we are doing this live here. But going back to this Game 6 real quick, it's once again that Zach Hyman shot. It's a hard shot. Shilov should have saved it. I believe he got a piece of it, but it trickles into the back of the net. And the Edmonton Oilers are up 2-1. After that, it's Evan Bouchard with an absolute missile from the point. He scores this. McDavid gets the primary assist on this one. This is his second primary assist of the game. Makes this game 3-1. That's a very impressive shot from a great young defenseman, Evan Bouchard. McDavid gets his 3rd assist of the night, puts the game away, 4-1 Oilers. I saw a stat that he now leads the Oilers franchise history in 3-point playoff games. Any stat leading the Oilers franchise in is going to be impressive, because you have the greatest hockey player of all time, probably one of the greatest North American athletes of all time, playing for that team, and holding every single skater forward record that he has it. So taking one from him, it doesn't matter how random the statistic is, it's still very impressive. Most 3-point playoff games in franchise history. That was off of a cross crease feed from Ryan Nugent Hopkins, who was there on the back door to put it away to get the puck past Artur Shilov's. That made it 4-1, and then Evander Kane, absolute missile off of the face-off, makes this game 5-1, puts it completely to bed. Draisaitl gets the primary assist on this one as he wins the face-off towards Evander Kane, that's how you pronounce his name. And Draisaitl or McDavid had the primary assist on all 5 of the Oilers' goals. It's going to be interesting to see if they can keep it up in this Game 7, as it looks like the Edmonton Oilers are about to go on the power play. That's going to be something we talk about in the 5th segment, is the Edmonton Oilers power play finally cooled off as they went 0 for 8. I think they were by the end of this game. So it's going to be interesting to see if they could turn that around, because this game was played completely 5-on-5, which is very impressive for the Vancouver Canucks. But as it goes for the Edmonton Oilers, that is very impressive as it goes for the Edmonton Oilers. As it goes for the Vancouver Canucks, they need to win the game 5-on-5 if they want a chance in this game 7, because the Oilers hold such an advantage on the special teams. We haven't seen it in the past 2 games. However, it is a shock if they go 3 straight games without a power play goal, as I believe they are about to go on the power play here with 7 minutes remaining in the first. The Edmonton Oilers still 0-0 to the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, I'm going to be keeping an eye on that game. And then McDavid and Draisaitl in these playoffs has been absolutely amazing. 34 assists between the two of them, winning 5-on-5, no power play goals in either of the last 2 contests, and they're still the 2 combined for 5 points total on this game. McDavid, Draisaitl, and Evan Bouchard have as many points in the playoffs as the entire rest of the team combined. Those 3 have been absolutely amazing. Of course, I gotta tip my hat to Evan Bouchard when I'm talking about these guys. Also, I believe Evan Bouchard, I know Evan Bouchard is the NHL postseason leader in defenseman points, defenseman goals. I believe he also leads in defenseman assists, as he's having an unbelievable postseason. And you can only expect that to continue, because he probably is, barring Quinn Hughes, whoever comes out of this series, Quinn Hughes or Evan Bouchard, will be the best defenseman remaining in the postseason, as you have the Dallas Stars. Their best defenseman is Miro Heiskanen, who is amazing, but I don't think he stacks up to either Evan Bouchard or Quinn Hughes. And then you also have on the other side, Adam Fox is probably the Rangers' best defenseman, and I don't think he stacks up to either of those 2. And then the Panthers is probably Aaron Ekblad, of course. Sorry. Aaron Ekblad is absolutely the Panthers' best defenseman. I was blanking on his name. And he is not as good as Evan Bouchard or Quinn Hughes in these playoffs, even overall as a player. So either of those players are going to have an advantage when it comes to anybody else that they play for the remaining of the postseason. It's going to be interesting to see if that does affect them. But with that being said, I am going to move on, talk about, in the second segment, the Rangers and the Florida Panthers as they start their series tomorrow. That's going to be a very interesting one, a very exciting one to preview. So we'll get right into that after I take my first break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on their fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back, guys. We're going to get right into our second segment, the Rangers-Panthers series preview. But before we go into that, I would love to remind you guys, if you want to support the show, support the creators on the GSMC Sports Network in any way, the tips and donations link is gsmcpodcast.net. Any questions, comments you have for me, you could also use that link to ask them. It'll show up as an alert across the screen here, and then I will be able to respond to it with a more timely manner than maybe putting something in the chat would. But with that being said, we're going to get right into our second segment here, Rangers-Panthers series preview. What is this series going to look like? First off, these teams stack up extremely well against each other. Both teams are very deep forward-wise. When you're talking about the Florida Panthers, we're talking about the Florida Panthers, Alexander Barkov, Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, Carter Verhaeghe, Anton Lundell, Kyle Okposo, Sam Reinhart, Vladimir Tarasenko. Those are your big forwards. Those are 10 amazing forwards. Then you have Evan Rodriguez, Nick Cousins, Ryan Lomberg, a bunch of guys, Kevin Stenlund. Those are your depth pieces. You have 10 spectacular forwards. You have 4 good, solid depth pieces. What does that look like on the ice? Well, you're able to roll 4 lines very well. You're able to play at a very high tempo on every single line because you are able to rest those guys for a little bit longer because you trust them. When you see top-heavy teams play hockey, you tend to see those players go out on the ice, more frequently. They'll go 1-2-3, 1-2-4, 1-2-3, 1-2-4, or it'll be 1-2-3, 1-2-4, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2-3. Cycle that, and they'll double shift these guys or triple shift these guys. Of course, I'm saying send out your first, second, third lines right in that order. So that's what it could look like when you got those top-heavy teams. But with the Florida Panthers, you're able to go 1-2-3-4, 1-2-3-4 very consistently. You have amazing depth pieces around these superstars that allows really Matthew Tkachuk, Alexander Barkov, Carter Verhaeghe, Vladimir Tarasenko, who is 32 years old, to play at a way higher tempo. These Florida Panthers forwards are very scary whenever you're going up against them as a defenseman core. And then beyond, on the backs of that, you still have very talented defensemen. Your top 6 looks a little bit something of Aaron Ekblad, Gustav Forsling, Brandon Montour, Dmitry Kulikov, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and then it's usually Nico Mikola, or you can lean towards Uvis Belinskis. All of these defensemen are utilized in a very similar way as you have your top pair, Ekblad Forsling, and then your second pair is usually OEL and Dmitry Kulikov, and then Brandon Montour and Nico Mikola are your third pairing defensemen. And what that allows you to do is those guys are really talented on their own rights. First off, your middle 2 defensemen, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Dmitry Kulikov, those are veterans. Those are amazing defensemen who have been around this league for a very long time. That allows you to be a lot more confident not having Aaron Ekblad and Gustav Forsling out there for so long. And then beyond all of that, you have 2 amazing goaltenders in Sergei Bobrovsky, and you haven't even seen Spencer Knight really in this postseason because they haven't needed him. Sergei Bobrovsky has stepped up in a way that we really haven't seen out of him when it comes to the postseason. It's always been, it's a tale as old as time when it goes to Sergei Bobrovsky. He's not able to really do it in the postseason, but but it's been very impressive for him. So they're getting amazing goaltending out of him. The Florida Panthers are probably the second best team in the NHL on paper. I'd still say the New York Rangers are the best team on paper, but this Florida Panthers team is still a very scary team. It's going to be interesting to see what they look like after the end of... going into next year, it'll be interesting to see what they look like. But when it comes to the New York Rangers, they have by far the most talented top six, and then their third and fourth line guys are still amazing. What their team looks like is usually Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider. Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, and Vincent Trocheck. That's usually your first line. Then you have Chris Kreider, Barclay Goodrow, and it's been that second line right wing has been a little bit in the air. I've seen Jack Roslovich play on the second line right wing. I've seen Philip Hiddle play on the second line right wing. And then even Alexis Lafreniere has gotten that time. But, that being said, plug any of those guys. 2 of the 3 of them are going to be on your third line. So take 2 of those 3. And then your center on that third line is usually Adam Edstrom. I believe he's been playing center. Alex Wunberg has been playing center on that third line. And Capo Caco has been one of the other wingers. And then your fourth line has been, Matt Rempe, who has played very well in the postseason. You've got Will Kyle. Kyle. That's a very hard name to pronounce. It's spelled Cuylle. So Will Kyle, that's how you pronounce it. He's been very good on the fourth line. And then your other fourth line forward has probably been Jimmy Vesey has seen some time there. You have Johnny Brodzinski, who has seen some time there. So those 4 lines are amazing for the New York Rangers. And they don't even have Blake Wheeler, who has been out for a very long time, who is out for the remainder of this postseason. That forward group is the only one that could really match up with the Florida Panthers, and I think that they match up very well. You have absolute superstars going back through this first line. It's Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, and Vincent Trocheck. That has been probably the best line in hockey for the last few years, honestly. And then your second line, once again, has been absolutely amazing. Chris Kreider, who just had a natural hat trick in Game 6 against the Carolina Hurricanes. Philip Hiddle, who has been very good this postseason. Barclay Goodrow, who has been very good this postseason. And then you have a former first overall pick in Alexis Lafreniere, who is being used on the third line sometimes on the second line. You have former first round centers on this team in Jack Roslovich and Alexander Wunberg. Capo Caco, former third overall pick. Jimmy Vesey, who has been a very serviceable player. This forward group has been amazing in the postseason, and they are just amazing, absolutely. Then moving on to the defense, you have one of the more well-rounded defensive cores the NHL sees. You have Adam Fox, Jacob Trouba, Keandre Miller, and Ryan Lindgren. Those are the 4 who make up your top 4. And then your third line defensive pair has been Zach Jones and Eric Gustafsson. Usually you have Braden Schneider playing a little bit in this postseason. And then, of course, you have Igor Shesterkin as your goaltender, who is the best goaltender in the NHL, I would say hands down. So this team on paper, in my opinion, is absolutely the best team in the NHL. He is. They are spectacular from top to bottom, from first line all the way down to third defensive pair. It is absolutely one of the best in the NHL. So I think that these teams stack up very, very well against each other. And we've seen it in the postseason. These 2 teams have really been on a collision course for each other. Florida Panthers coming off of a Stanley Cup final run last year, of course losing it to the Vegas Golden Knights in heartbreaking fashion. But this is a very similar team. They didn't have to go up against the New York Rangers last year. This Rangers team is top to bottom fantastic. President's Trophy winning team for a reason. With that being said, of course, my prediction is, as I've given you guys hints throughout this postseason, I do have the New York Rangers winning the Stanley Cup, which means that they do have to beat this Florida Panthers team. I have them beating this Florida Panthers team in 6. The betting odds, I'm looking at DraftKings Sportsbooks for my betting odds. you have the Florida Panthers at minus 150 to win this series. So I'm going against Vegas in saying I have the New York Rangers winning this one. But I think that it is still the right pick. I think the New York Rangers, I wouldn't say are outclassed in this one, but I do believe the Florida Panthers are just the better side, are the better team. The New York Rangers are the better side, are the better team, not the Florida Panthers. The Vegas does believe in the Florida Panthers. I would say that that's more of a reactive reasoning because you saw the Florida Panthers close out the Boston Bruins very well, but you saw the New York Rangers fighting a little bit more against the Carolina Hurricanes. Of course, both games go to 6, however, or both series go to 6 games. However, the New York Rangers go up 3-0, drop 2 straight, and the Florida Panthers never were really in doubt in that series. They get demolished in game 1, and from there you win 4 of the next 5. The Boston Bruins didn't really stand a chance. So that's why I believe the line is set where it is set, but I would still absolutely say the New York Rangers are my favorites in this one. I have them winning it in 6. So that'll do it for our Rangers-Panthers series preview discussion. When I'm going to get back, we're going to be talking about the Carolina Hurricanes, their off-season, and what questions I have for them because they have a lot of players to re-sign and not a lot of money to do it with. So when I get back from my second break, that is what we will be discussing.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back, guys, to our third segment where we'll be talking about the Carolina Hurricanes and following this picture and following this event, what their offseason, what their future really holds in store for them. Doing a little bit of deep dive into this team, you have, on paper, you had a great team last year. However, you have, I'm going to start where I usually would end and talk about their goaltending situation because I think that this is the one that, I think that this is the most interesting part of this team. You have Frederik Andersen, who has a year left after this offseason. He's still on contract through the end of next year. He's 34 years old. He didn't look amazing, and I believe that it might be time for the Carolina Hurricanes to move on from him. He isn't taking up much of your cap. That's the problem. It doesn't really make sense to not have him, but I believe $3.4 million is still money that you need. Kochetkov proved to be a good starter. You see it in this picture, him over 52. That's their backup goaltender. You also have Spencer Martin, who is their backup goaltender. But I believe Kochetkov should probably be their starter moving forward. I believe he's been playing. He played very well when I saw him in the postseason against the New York Rangers. I believe he played in that game 5 that they ended up winning, and then they went back in game 6 to Frederik Andersen. He does have a no trade clause, so maybe waivers, maybe buyout. I don't know. I don't think that $3.4 million might be a little bit too much for him to still be on the roster at. Then, then for the Carolina Hurricanes, you have fantastic defensemen who need new contracts. Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, both of them have said that they want to resign. They want to stay in Carolina, and I don't know how much of a pay cut they're willing to take to do it. You have a UFA in Anthony DeAngelo, who looks like that's just going to be a walk. It looks like Tony DeAngelo is heading to the free agency market. Jalen Chatfield, who I believe will go to the free agency market. Dylan Coughlin, he is an RFA for the Carolina Hurricanes. I believe that they'll probably re-sign him and use him as their sixth defenseman on this roster. I don't know what their prospect pool has for them as far as defensemen go, but just on their roster, they're going to probably use him as a seventh D-man. So you still have on contract, you have Ronan Seeley, who I believe will be in the AHL next year. Scott Morrow, who is on an entry-level contract. He'll probably still be in the AHL next year. Brent Burns, who is 39 years old, not getting any younger, taking up $5.25 million. You have Jakub Slavin, who is 30 years old, taking up $5.25 million. Both of these guys are on contract through next year. And then Dmitry Orlov, who is 32, taking up almost $8 million. So you have $20 million tied into basically 3 defensemen there. That is a lot of money for the production you're getting out of these guys. You're probably going to want to move on from Dmitry Orlov and use that money to re-sign Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, who deserve it way more than Dmitry Orlov do. And as far as the forwards go, you have Teuvo Teravainen needs a new contract. Stefan Nesson needs a new contract. Jordan Martinook, who needs a new contract. Jake Gensel needs a new contract. Jake Gensel said that he wants to stay in Carolina. He was a trade deadline acquisition who looks to want to re-sign with the Hurricanes. You have Ryan Suzuki, who's an RFA. Martin Necas is an RFA. Seth Jarvis, who's an RFA. Jack Drury, who's an RFA. Maxime Comtois, who's an RFA. That is a lot of forwards. What is that? 9 forwards who need new contracts. 9 forwards, 2 defensemen you're looking to re-sign. That's 11 skaters. All right, why is that a problem? Right now they have $27 million. You need to re-sign 11 skaters with $27 million. That's a little bit scary. And it's not like these guys are going to really want to take pay cuts here. You're talking about Brady Shea, Brett Pesce. I say Brady Shea probably gets around $6 million. That would make sense for him. He is a top 4D man. That's about where I would have him. $6 million for Brady Shea. Brett Pesce is probably around that $5 million, maybe $4 million mark. 29 years old, proven playoff producer. So you're going to want to re-sign those 2 guys because they are committed to this team and they are good players and they're defensemen that you need. So you have, about $10 million, we'll call it, going on the cheap side here. $10 million, $19 million left, right? Teuvo Teravainen, Stefan Nesson, Jordan Martinook, and Jake Gensel. Those are your UFA forwards. Those are 4 UFA forwards. Who do you want to re-sign? Who are you willing to let walk? Well, Jordan Martinook is an assistant captain. I wouldn't let an assistant captain go. And I think that the Carolina Hurricanes share that sentiment. So what does that look like for Jordan Martinook? I don't know what contract he was on before. Actually, I'm going to see if I could figure that out here. Jordan Martinook was on, let's see here. Before this, he was on a $1.8 million contract. Okay. I think that you'll get him for around the same amount there. Let's say $2 million because he'll want a little bit more. He's $31. He'll want a little bit more here. So $2 million for Jordan Martinook. Teuvo Teravainen. Now, this is the one that's very scary. He was on he was on a $5.5 million contract. For Teuvo Teravainen, he's only gotten better, and he's 29 years old. In his prime, he was on a $5.5 million contract. I would say he's looking for about 7. So you got $2 million Jordan Martinook, $7 million Teuvo Teravainen. That's $9 million. Stefan Nesson, he's probably around $2 million as well. You're at 11 now. Jake Gensel, that's the one that's very, very interesting. In Pittsburgh, Jake Gensel was making $6 million over the last 5 years. I don't know what he'll want to do. That's the one that's very interesting to me. You have, before Jake Gensel, you have $21 million probably gone because you do want to keep these guys. You want to keep Jordan Martinook, Stefan Nesson, Teuvo Teravainen, Brett Pesce, and Brady Shea. Those 5 guys are kind of cores of this team, and they are proven to be good. And they aren't the reason you're losing games. So you're looking at about $21 million in those 5 guys, I would say. That leaves you with $6.5 million for $6.5 million for Jake Gensel, Ryan Suzuki, Martin Necas, Seth Jarvis, Jack Drury, and Maxime Comtois. 6 guys, $7.5 million. Jake Gensel is gonna want probably around 5 is my guess. I think he'll take the pay cut. That's $1 million off of his last last contract. I think that makes a little bit of sense. That'll put him right around that Jesperi Kotkaniemi contract that they have, who's at 4.8. You have Andrei Svechnikov at 7.75, and I think that that's where he's going to belong, really, right underneath those guys. So for the Carolina Hurricanes, you're looking at Jake Gensel, probably $6 million, and you might be okay with that. Now you have $0 though, so $5, $1 million. That's enough to sign 1 RFA. You're gonna put that in Seth Jarvis. We'll see if he goes for that cheap. He proved in these playoffs that he is ready to take a step. He might just sign a 1x1 though. 1x1. He'll still be an RFA next year. And he'll still be an RFA next year. He's been amazing for the Carolina Hurricanes, and they'll have, you'll get Brent Burns off your books, who's going to absolutely retire at the end of next year if he does play through another season. Jacob Slavin, who is not going to be, or is going to be a UFA next year, he'll either take a pay cut or he'll leave for the Carolina Hurricanes. So a 1x1 for Seth Jarvis makes sense for me, or even just keeping him on a 2-way contract if he is willing, keeping that free of the cap. You'll be able to pay probably a Ryan Suzuki that other 2-way contract. So now you have a 25-year-old Martin Necas, a 25-year-old Maxime Comtois, and a 24-year-old Jack Drury to re-sign, and I'm really looking at Dmitry Orlov. It's probably the odd man out here. If you can sell that, or if you can trade away that $7.750 million contract for this 32-year-old defenseman, it's only 1 more year, so any contender with money should be able to take that on. We're looking at maybe a Vancouver Canucks here. We're looking at maybe a I don't know who has a lot of cap space off the top of my head. That is contending, maybe a Devils, maybe a Senators, someone like that who thinks that could put them over the edge. I think that Dmitry Orlov cannot be on this team if they want to keep all of these players. And of course, they do want to still get better here. They only are a second round team, so they're only a second round team with not adding anybody. So they're going to want to add somebody. That means you're going to need to move on from some money. We're looking at probably the $3.5 million in Freddie Anderson and the $7.750 in Dmitry Orlov. That frees up $10 million. You could probably use $2 million of that to make sure all of your guys are completely signed, and then that leaves you with a good $9 million to really splurge out on somebody. You have all of your picks for the next, or you have all your picks in this draft. You have your first and second in next year's, and first and second in 2026. You can go out and get a pretty decent piece for that. And I think that they're really looking at maybe a top 6 forward to pair up with. You have Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Jesper Kotkaniemi is probably your second-line center. And then you probably have Jake Gensel on your first-line right wing, Teuvo Teravainen on your second-line left wing. So you're looking really about second-line right wing guy. Maybe I would add to this team to make sure you kind of push it over the edge. Maybe Seth Jarvis could be that guy, but I would say that that's probably better saved for the third line. So I think that the Carolina Hurricanes, first off, first order of business, need to re-sign their guys. Second order of business, they need to go out and get probably a second line winger, either left or right, whichever one. You could probably work your team around that. Third off, you don't need the picks that you have. I would say use those to either help you get the second line right winger or to get better depth defensemen. If you do want to move on to Dmitry Orlov, you'll be able to have Jakub Slavin, Brady Shea, Brett Pesce be your cornerstones of your D, and then have Brett Burns, and then a couple more bottom two defensemen who can really carry this team. The Carolina Hurricanes are not in that scary of a position. They don't need to sell their entire team, but this is a very pivotal offseason for this team, for this squad, if they really do. They've had Stanley Cup hopes for a very long time. They do re-sign their head coach, Rod Brindamore, who brings that championship caliber team to Carolina. So I'm going to be very interested to see what they do in the offseason, and that will be definitely one that I follow along very closely for you guys. So with that being said, we're going to get into our fourth segment after I take my third break of the night, where we'll be talking about Alexander Barkov and him winning the Selke. Thank you.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Alright guys, welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast. During that third break, I want to take a drink of water and spilled it all over my shirt. So, a little bit of a wardrobe change really quickly as we go into our fourth segment. That's not what you wanted that's not what I wanted to do during that break, but you know what? We make do. It's still a collared, it is more of a jacket, but it's still a collared something for you guys. Keep it a little bit professional. Can't believe I did that. The Edmonton Oilers scored. Sorry. All over the place right now. Cody Ceci gets this game rolling as the Vancouver Canucks finish the first period only with 2 shots on goal during the entire 20-minute frame. And the Edmonton Oilers really pouring it on here early in this one. Cody Ceci scores his second of the postseason with that goal. But what we're talking about, the Frank J. Selke Trophy goes to the Florida Panthers forward Alexander Barkov. This is his second Frank J. Selke of his career, him winning most recently in 2021. This award has gone out to Patrice Bergeron, most notably. First off, the Frank J. Selke is the award that goes to the best two-way forward in the NHL. Two-way forward meaning defensively and offensively, which is why it's really the Patrice Bergeron Trophy. The first time that this was awarded was in 1978. It went to the Montreal Canadiens winger, Bob Gainey. Bob Gainey, over the course of his career, went on to win this 4 times. He won the first 4 of these. Some notable names that won this: Bobby Clark of the Broad Street Bully Philadelphia Flyers. It's Guy Carbonneau of the Montreal Canadiens, he won it 3 times. You have Sergei Fedorov of the Detroit Red Wings, won it twice. Steve Yzerman of the Detroit Red Wings won it 1 time. Pavel Datsyuk. A lot of Detroit Red Wings won this one. They really love playing defense over there in Detroit. But Pavel Datsyuk won it 3 times in a row in the mid-2000s. Rod Brind'Amour, the Carolina Hurricanes' current head coach, won this twice. And then it gets to the current era, which we've seen going back to 2008. Pavel Datsyuk 3 times straight, as I said. Ryan Kessler won it in 2010-2011 with the Vancouver Canucks when he took that team to the Stanley Cup Finals. Next year, it was Patrice Bergeron with his first of his career. This turned into his trophy, really. It was Jonathan Toews after that of the Chicago Blackhawks. Patrice Bergeron went back-to-back. Anze Kopitar won it in 15-16. Patrice Bergeron again in 16-17. That was his 4th. And then it was Anze Kopitar, Ryan O'Reilly, Sean Couturier. And then you get to Alexander Barkov's first. Patrice Bergeron won it back-to-back again in 2021, 2020, from 2021 to 2023. And then most recently, Alexander Barkov. Great forwards win this award. It is a prestigious one. It is one that he is definitely very, very proud to have. It's very similar to the Defensive Player of the Year award in the NBA. It's an honor for these guys to get an award like that, and Alexander Barkov really prides himself on his two-way ability and his two-way game. The winner of the Selke has been an all-star in almost every year besides maybe a few, and you have Hall of Famers winning this award. So it's definitely one that he's very, very proud to have got in the trophy cabinet, not just once, but twice now for Alexander Barkov. And it is the Florida Panthers' kind of identity, is playing this two-way game, and we really see it in this postseason. And this is really what's going to have to bring them over the New York Rangers. They're amazing forwards. That's the difference, really. You have the skill of the New York Rangers forwards on this team, but the New York Rangers forwards don't have this amazing defensive ability as well. I believe the Rangers have a little bit better offensive ability. That's still why I believe in them. But in this series, for Alexander Barkov, he is absolutely going to be a key factor, play such a pivotal role for the Florida Panthers as he has his entire career ever since, he was drafted back in the 2014 season, or 2013. 2013 was his draft year. His rookie year was 2014. Alexander Barkov, of course, has been, he's been a mainstay of this Florida Panthers first line, really, his entire career. Of course, playing with Jonathan Huberdeau for the longest time, and then now he's kind of taking the team by the reins here. Him and Aaron Ekblad are, of course, the top guys on this team. Alexander Barkov, the second overall pick in 2013. Aaron Ekblad, the first overall pick in 2014. These two guys have made a duo on the Florida Panthers that has been very fun to watch for a very long time. So, in this, what the Selke means in terms to this postseason is you really see the ability of this Florida Panthers forwards. What they're able to do differently than a lot of other teams is overwhelm the forecheck, overwhelm in the offensive zone when the opposing team is trying to break out, creating turnovers in high pressure situations and being able to turn that defense into offense is really Alexander Barkov's specialty. He's made an absolute career and a very fantastic career in the NHL at that by doing that, maybe even a Hall of Fame career by doing this. He's absolutely going to need to continue this when it does come into this Eastern Conference Final. You need to play at maybe even the highest rate that he's ever had to play in his career if they do want to beat this New York Rangers team. But you absolutely believe that Alexander Barkov can win this. And this really you believe that Alexander Barkov can really help this team win this, go to the Stanley Cup Final, win this Eastern Conference Final. And this is really why, is his inapt ability to play such a great two-way game. Him and Matthew Tkachuk are two of the best forwards that we see at this two-way game in the NHL. The other awards are going to be handed out throughout the postseason, and I believe the NHL awards show will be in June. So more on the awards when they do announce. I'm excited to see who wins the Hart Trophy because it is one of the more exciting ones we have seen in recent memory. And with that being said, we're going to take our fourth break of the night. When I come back, we'll be talking about the Oilers-Canucks Game 7 that is currently ongoing, and I promise you I will not spill water all over myself during this break. Alright guys, we are back with our fifth and final segment of the night where we will be talking about this Game 7 that is currently ongoing between the between the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers. Sorry, I was looking at something about the Carolina Hurricanes. This is not even a close game. We saw in Game 6 a 5-1 win by the Oilers. Right now what we're looking at is 2-0 Oilers. Shots on goal comparison is 23-4. It's not going to get it done. 4 shots on net, and the Edmonton Oilers do score as we were taking that break. Ooh, wow, this game might be over, and we might be seeing the Oilers in their second Western Conference final in a row. Another fantastic postseason for Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl together. This one's not close, guys. It's the Vancouver Canucks just absolutely laying down to the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers up 2-0 once again in this Game 7 with 13:40 to go in the second period. They have gotten goals from, and we talked about it in Game 6, it was production from who? Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. They're not even on the score sheet yet in this game. Cody Ceci gets his second of the postseason from Brent Kulak and Dylan Holloway. That's how they score their first goal. And then a little bit later in the second period, you have an Evan Bouchard goal. Of course, it's an Evan Bouchard goal from Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman gained his third assist of the postseason. That's something we're going to want to see from him a little bit more, turned into more well-rounded offensive game instead of just being on the net, being able to make that other pass there. So, yeah, 2-0, 23-4 shots. This isn't on Shelovs. You need 4 shots on net. Try to wrap my head around this. Of course, I can't watch it, so I'm trying to picture what's happening, what's causing this, and the only thing that I can think about is not having Brock Besser. We talked about him earlier. He is one of the greatest forwards in the game right now, and not having him really sucks. So, I was going to talk about what the Canucks need to do, or what the Oilers need to do in this Game 7 if it was a close one. I thought that it would have been a little bit closer, but 2-0. Of course, 2-0 score-wise is close, but 23-4 shots, this is a rout. This is the Oilers kind of dominating them. So instead of that, I think what we're going to do is an on-the-fly adjustment here and talk about the Vancouver Canucks a little bit off-season wise. We're not going to go into a full off-season breakdown of them. But I am I'm wondering a little bit if they need to be worried. If they need to be worried this offseason. They have $25 million in cap space. Sorry. They have $25 million in cap space. Artur Shilovs and Casey DeSmith are both free agents. I think you move on from Casey DeSmith. Artur Shilovs has proved to be the more than serviceable backup for Thatcher Demko. And I think what we're going to see from these guys is more of a tandem next year because Artur Shilovs has absolutely garnered the respect of the Vancouver Canucks and all their fan base. But moving on from them, the only defenseman that you really have on contract next year, you have Noah Juulsen, but I don't think that he's really an NHL guy. So you have Carson Soucy and Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes, the captain, he's on contract for 3 more years at $7.85. That's a really great contract for them. But yeah, Carson Soucy, Quinn Hughes are really your 2 defensemen, so you need 4 defensemen. Philip Bronek is probably going to sign for about $2 or $3 million. You have then Nikita Zadorov is probably going to be the other defenseman you decide to sign from these guys. Tyler Myers, Mark Friedman, and Ian Cole are all UFAs. Let them walk. You don't really need them. So you're going to need to find 2 defensemen. Then when it comes down to your forwards, you have Dakota Joshua, who has absolutely well-deserved pay raise. He's probably going to be around $4 million in his next contract. Elias Lindholm, who, if you're the Canucks, I think you want to keep. They have $25 million. Why not keep him? Dakota Joshua, Elias Lindholm, Philip Bronek, and Nikita Zadorov. Those are your 4 guys that you're probably going to keep, and Artur Shilov. So 5 guys to resign. Those 5, I would say, probably take up about $18 to $20 million. Let's say $20 million. So $7 million. Now you need 2 bottom 2 defensemen. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 3 more skaters really with $7 million I think is plenty. They'll be fine. But it's still very disappointing. This team was amazing this year. One of the best in the entire... Oh, they're paying Oliver Ekman-Larsson a lot of money for a very long time. They're paying him $2.5 million next year, about $5 million in 25 through 27. That is a lot of money for a guy not on your team. So that's going to take up a lot of your cap space. That's why. Okay, I was looking at these, and they have a lot of great contracts. So that's a tough one. You're also paying Elias Pettersson $11.6 million for a very long time. He's paid through 2032, and he hasn't produced in this postseason. You're going to expect a lot more from him. Hopefully he could kind of turn it around in this game. The Canucks got another shot on goal. Woo. Now they're at 5. It's still looking very rough for them. So for the Vancouver Canucks, you have the money. Who they're going to get is a big question mark. I think to put this team over the edge, they need a little bit more scoring and depth, and they need a better power play guys. When you're looking at the Vancouver Canucks, your power play is usually some mixture of Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, Brock Besser, Dakota Joshua, and Quinn Hughes. That's usually been their first line power play. And then your second line power play has been Carson Soucy, Elias Lindholm, Niels Höglander, Connor Garland, and Ilya Mikheyev is probably your 5th guy on those power plays. I think Ilya Mikheyev and Connor Garland, probably both of them, could be upgraded on the power play. So I think that this team does need a little bit of help here. Down in their what's the word I'm looking for? In their prospect pool, they do have Jonathan Lekkerimäki, who I believe is really good. They also have Anybody else that really I love here in their prospect pool? Aturatu, sorry, that's how you pronounce his name. He's been really good, but we haven't seen him take the next step. Tristan Nielsen, who could be very good. You have Ty Mueller, who could be pretty good for them. So, I think they'll be fine here. I think the Canucks will be fine. It's still a very disappointing. It's still a very, very disappointing result here. 2-0. The last two games, they haven't shown any fight here after going up 3-2. This one, maybe not any fault of the Canucks. It's without Brock Besser. Nothing anybody could do about that. Blood clotting issues is a very big problem. I'd be very disappointed if I was the Vancouver Canucks. 2-0. It doesn't look like they have a little bit of life here. And that's how they're going to go out of this postseason. When they really, I really think that they thought that they had a chance against the Stars and making it to the Stanley Cup Final, being one of the only Stanley Cup Final. It's only one of the only teams Canadian teams to make the Stanley Cup Final since those 93 Montreal Canadiens. Of course, in 2021, the Montreal Canadiens made it to the Stanley Cup Final, but in that division, they only went up against other Canadian teams until the Final Four, so I don't really count that too much. So really, 93 was the last time a legitimate Canadian team made it to the Stanley Cup Final, so we'll see if the Edmonton Oilers can be the ones to do that. As it's very exciting for them. But yeah, Vancouver Canucks going out a little bit sorry in this one. I would be very disappointed if I was them. I believe the Dallas Stars are looking at this kind of excited because you know that they do match up very well against the Edmonton Oilers. We'll do a full series breakdown on that one if the Oilers do win this game on Wednesday. But with that being said, that will wrap it up for our Monday night podcast. It's great to be back from the weekend, guys. But with that all being said, thank you for tuning into the GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your guys' support means the world to us. So please remember to subscribe to the show if you can and leave a positive review, like it, share it around if you can. It really does make a difference for us here. Seeing those results makes us all, put in more time, put in a lot more effort for you guys. And then we also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So all of you guys, thank you for your support. And once again, have an absolutely lovely rest of your night.
A bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to Let's go.